No one expected the evening sky to turn that shade of gold, soft, trembling, almost like it was trying to whisper something before the sun disappeared. And to some, standing alone beside her small vegetable garden, felt the strange warmth settle against her skin. She didn't know why her heart suddenly beat faster. She only knew that she had been waiting for one person for far too long. Lee. For months, his name had been a quiet echo in her chest, sometimes warm, sometimes painful. He had survived the bullet, survived the darkness, but after that, he vanished. No calls, no letters, not even a rumor from the wind, only silence and the heavy weight of maybe he will never return. Tusum wiped her hands on her apron and let out a soft sigh. Her garden was growing well, her small house was peaceful, and Mick, the stray dog she adopted, followed her everywhere like a shadow. But peace was not the same as happiness. Peace could not fill the empty space where Lee once stood. She whispered, almost without sound, "Lee, where are you now?" And then she heard footsteps. Slow, familiar, steady. Tusum froze. Her heart felt like it stopped beating. When she turned around, she saw a figure standing at the edge of the path. The wind blew softly, lifting the dust around his boots, carrying the faint smell of travel, sun, and something deeper, something that used to make her feel safe. "Sam," he said. Just one word. But it broke something inside her. It was Lee. He looked different, older, tired, with a sorrow hiding behind his eyes. But he was alive, truly alive, and in his hands, he carried a stack of documents, sealed and worn along the edges like they had traveled with him through storms. Tusum couldn't move. She didn't know whether to cry, run to him, or run away from the memories. Lee walked closer, each step heavy with meaning, and stopped right in front of her. His voice trembled, not from fear, but something deeper, fragile. "Sam, I'm home, and everything I own, every right, every signature, I'm giving all of it to you." She stared at him, unable to speak. "What I couldn't protect before, I want to give you now, if you still want me in your life." The evening wind grew quiet, as if holding its breath. Tusum looked into his eyes, those same eyes she once trusted with her whole heart, and wondered, was this their second chance? Or was this only another fragile dream that would break the moment she touched it? For a long moment, Tusum said nothing. Her throat tightened, and she felt the sting of tears pushing forward, but she refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not when her heart was still unsure whether to beat with relief or with fear. Lee stood silently before her, waiting. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide it. He had always been strong, unshakable even in danger, but now, facing her, he looked almost fragile, vulnerable, human. "Why now?" Tusum finally whispered. "Why come back only to hand me everything? Lee, what happened to you?" Lee lowered his gaze. "I owed you too much," he said, "and I didn't know how to face you until I made things right. But disappearing for months," she said, her voice cracking, "is that how you made things right?" Silence wrapped around them like a cold wind. Lee swallowed hard. "Sam, I didn't disappear because I wanted to. After the incident, I lost everything. My company, my freedom, even my name. I was trapped in a battle I didn't choose. When I finally got out, the only thought I had was coming back to you." Tusam's fingers curled tightly around the hem of her shirt. The anger inside her was real. So was the longing. And the fear. That terrible fear of losing him again. "You could have sent one message. Just one." "I know." His voice broke. "Every day I wished I could, but I was being watched. If anyone knew you were connected to me, they would have gone after you. I couldn't risk your life, not again." Her breath caught. And suddenly all the sleepless nights, all the unanswered questions, all the pain she carried, they collided with the quiet truth in Lee's eyes. "Sam," he whispered, stepping closer, "I gave you all my signatures, all my documents, all my rights, not because I'm leaving, but because I want you to never feel unprotected again." Her foot shook. He lifted his hand slowly, as if afraid she might pull away, and brushed his fingers against hers. Warm, familiar, almost enough to melt every wall around her heart. Almost. "Lee," she murmured, "do you think giving me everything will erase the pain you left behind?" He shook his head. "No. But I hope it shows you what I'm willing to do to earn a second chance." The wind rustled the leaves. The sky dimmed into twilight. Tusam looked at him, not the man he used to be, not the man she feared losing, but the man who stood in front of her now, scarred, tired, but sincere. And quietly, she asked, "If I say yes, will you stay this time?" Lee's breath trembled. "I will stay for the rest of my life if you let me." Her heart fluttered, but the answer, it wasn't ready to come yet. Not until she knew the full truth. Tusam led Lee inside the small house she had built with her own hands. The place still carried the scent of fresh wood, warm tea, and something gentle, something she had created to survive the days he was gone. She set 2 cups on the table, though her hands trembled as she did. Lee noticed, but he didn't speak. He knew this moment wasn't about comforting her. It was about finally telling the truth she had been forced to live without. "Sit," she said quietly. Lee obeyed. For a long moment, the only sound was the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Tusam finally sat across from him, folding her hands to steady her breathing. "Tell me everything. No hiding, no protecting me. Just the truth." Lee nodded once. Then he lifted his gaze, and she saw something in his eyes: exhaustion, fear, and deep regret. "It started the night I left. I wasn't supposed to disappear. I was supposed to come home to you." Her heart tightened. "But the organization I was fighting against, they ambushed me on the road. I didn't die, Sam, but they made sure the world thought I did. They took me, locked me up, and forced me to sign away my influence, my power, everything." Tusam covered her mouth, horrified. "I tried to escape, but every time I fought back, they threatened to come after you. They watched you, Sam. They knew where you worked, where you slept, even where you went to buy food." A shiver ran down her spine. "I stayed silent because if I made one wrong move, you would have paid the price." His voice trembled. "I thought the only way to keep you safe was to let the world believe I was gone." Tusam lowered her eyes. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. Lee reached out, but stopped halfway, unsure if he had the right to touch her. "When I finally escaped," he whispered, "I didn't run back into my old life. I burned it. Everything. I signed it all over to you because I wanted you to be untouchable. No one can use me to hurt you anymore." Her breath hitched as she looked up. "You gave me everything to protect me." He nodded. "Sam, I didn't come back as a man with power. I came back as a man who only has one thing left. You." Her heart twisted painfully. She wanted to hate him for leaving. She wanted to blame him for every tear she shed. But the truth was far more complicated than pain and far deeper than anger. She stood slowly, walking toward the window. Outside, the sun was setting behind the garden she tended every morning. She stared at the fading light and whispered, "You should have told me. Even if it was dangerous, I deserved to know." Lee closed his eyes, his voice barely above a breath. "I know, and that's the mistake I'll spend the rest of my life trying to fix." Silence filled the room, heavy but no longer cold. Tusam turned around. Her eyes were red, but her voice steadied. "Lee, you came back, and you're alive. That should mean something. But trusting you again, it won't be easy." Lee finally let the breath escape from his chest. "I don't want easy," he said softly. "I want you." The words settled between them like a fragile promise, waiting to see if it could grow into something real. That night, the house was quieter than ever. Lee remained in the small living room while Sam stood in the doorway of her bedroom, one hand resting on the frame, as if unsure whether she should walk away or walk back toward him. The air felt delicate, like one wrong word could shatter everything. "Lee," she finally said. He looked up, eyes gentle despite the exhaustion carved into his face. "I'm not asking you to forget," he said slowly. "I only hope you can let me stay long enough to prove I'm still the man you once believed in." Sam lowered her gaze. Her heart felt like a fragile bird beating against her ribs. She remembered the nights she had cried alone, the fear that he had died, the weight of building a life without him while growing a tiny heartbeat inside her. "You hurt me," she whispered. "You broke pieces of me I didn't know could break." "I know," his voice cracked, "and I'm willing to spend the rest of my life repairing every one of them." She turned to him then, really turned, and saw something that made her breath stop. Lee's eyes were wet. For a man who once walked into danger without fear, tears were rarer than miracles, and yet here he was, showing her a vulnerability he had never shown before, not as a leader, not as a fighter, but as a man terrified of losing the only person he loved. She walked toward him slowly, her steps hesitant yet determined. "Lee," she said, stopping in front of him, "I can't promise that everything will be okay. I can't promise that I can trust you right away. But," his heartbeat quickened, "but I can promise you one thing. I'm willing to try." Lee drew in a sharp breath, almost a gasp, as if those were the very words he had prayed for. He reached for her hand. This time she didn't pull away. In that quiet house, beneath the soft glow of the late-night lamp, something shifted, something small but real. Not a full forgiveness, not a complete reunion, but the beginning of a new chapter. A second chance, and for two people who had lost too much, that was enough.